Cognitive Republic. I'm coming to you on a horrible, wet Saturday morning, the 17th of January, and what I've decided, I'm occasionally going to stumble over my words. What I've decided to do is add a podcast version of the Cognitive Republic to my newsletter. So what I'm going to do in this first episode, hopefully over the next 10 minutes or so, is just introduce what this whole business is about. What I've decided to do is create a new home for a new mission. I'm going to write a book in public. It'll be written online. It's a new, different, and I have to be honest, somewhat scary experience for me. And I hope for you, the reader, and indeed now the listener, you'll find this a useful and interesting experience. And hopefully you'll, if you don't get the chance to read what I have to say, maybe you'll listen in instead. I'm a prolific public writer in addition to being an academic. I'll talk a little bit about my academic work, and then I'm going to talk about why I'm doing what I'm doing here. So I am Professor of Experimental Brain Research at Trinity College Dublin. I was formerly the director of the Neuroscience Institute, which is located in Trinity. We have about 250 personnel focused on different aspects of brain function. And over the years, I've done academic facing work, particularly to do on aspects of learning, memory, cognition, and how these interact with stress and depression. I've also had a line of work focused on public policy, in particular to do with investigative interviewing and interrogation and the whole science around how we should approach probing people's memories for what has happened in the past or for what they might do in the future in an ethical and human rights compliant way. At a future point, I'll talk about some of the technologies that we're employing in my lab. In particular, we use a technology called functional near-infrared spectroscopy, or FNIRS, which allows us to record the activity in multiple brains interacting at the same time, and what is called hyperscanning. I've published about 180 or 200 academic papers, and I've also published 4 full-length books with various publishers, from Harvard University Press to Penguin Random House. I've also done a lot of public writing on my Substack, Brain Pizza. That Substack will continue, and I'm going to make an announcement there about what I plan to do regarding it where brain and behaviour is concerned. I've written about 250 pieces there over the past 5 years, so that's about 500,000 words at about, let's say, 2,000 words a piece. But I'm now going to take the time for a new identity here at steady.page, and I want to focus on a new project which I'm calling the Cognitive Republic, and the subtitle is straightforward: Building Societies That Experiment, Learn and Evolve. And the strapline is similarly simple: Reinventing Democracies as Learning Adaptive Systems. Cognitive Republic originally started as a book proposal. I decided, rather than develop it into a book over a 3 or 4 year period, that I should instead try and release it here piece by piece to test the arguments and to engage in thinking in public. I would, of course, appreciate if you continued your subscription, and ideally you could become a member. There are several tiers of membership available, and there will be a lot more available for members who will get lots of other things along with the as a result of becoming members. So I want to say why I'm doing this and why I'm wanting to do it now. It's clearly the case that we're in some degree of difficulty politically. Ireland, for example, has been a stable democracy for about 100 years now, since we gained our independence. We have full employment. We have a government running considerable budget surpluses, and yet it's the case that people are very unhappy. And there are good reasons for that, which I won't go into here. And our case is not an unusual case. Right across the democratic world, there are crises of trust, there are crises of legitimacy, there's crises of governance, there are crises caused by political stasis in the face of rapid technological, financial and other changes. There are crises of belief and confidence caused by the rise of new online media, tools and techniques even shaking the very foundations of our shared epistemic reality, or to put it in simpler terms, what it is that we each believe we know about the world that we live in. And that's not just it. There's been lots of other things happening too. We had a major financial shock just 15 years ago. That was followed by really unpleasant rebalancing of national economies. We've recently had terrible bouts of inflation. There have been banking collapses. Here in Ireland, for example, two major banks went under at a cost of tens of billions to the state. In the US, that has similarly been the case, the UK, and lots of other places. And then we've also had acute crises caused by new and lethal communicable diseases, and these have spread rapidly throughout the world. We'll be well aware, of course, of the pandemic and the lockdowns that happened in the last couple of years. And then at present there are many wars, small and large. There are insurgencies and there are great civil conflicts taking place. And there are crises caused by populist authoritarians offering simple, beguiling, but what will be catastrophically wrong solutions to the problems besetting us. And it's reasonable to say that there are also mental health crises with anxiety, social isolation and burnout present and widespread. And these drain potential, they drain well-being, even from the richest and most well-off of societies. I'm using an old-fashioned phrase, one that's used very frequently in sociology, but I think also can apply here, which is anomie. This is a feeling of disconnection, of loss of meaning, of loss of agency. This seems to be everywhere and affecting everyone. Some countries worse than others, obviously. Some countries maintain higher levels of well-being and happiness with their democracies than others, but nonetheless the challenges are out there. Now, I contend our democracies are ill-equipped to handle these multiple crises and challenges, and we need new and I think out-of-the-box thinking to save our societies and to solve the problems in ways that have public buy-in and confidence. And what I propose is something very simple and straightforward, that authoritarianism is resurgent. Our traditional institutions are brittle, often lacking in trust, and democratic trust itself is eroding in governments and in democracy itself. We need to think about democracy in a new way. We need a new language to discuss democracy, and we need a new way of doing things. And I call this the cognitive republic, and what I suggest is that we need to think about democracy not as a static philosophy, but as a learning, adaptive system. I'm going to suggest again, it would be great if you could become a member. There are different tiers of membership available, and you can click the So, what's coming? Well, there's quite a few things. In the coming weeks, I've already written these up on the Cognitive Republic, so you can go to read them there. I'm going to talk about the Cognitive Republic itself as an idea and the global collapse of democratic faith. I'm going to go on and discuss why democracies must learn or die, and I'm still in the business of discussing that and discussing the alternatives. And then I'm going to move on right through a whole series of other questions. Now, you might ask yourself, what's this all about? And that's a reasonable place to start. Do we need just another philosophy? Well, I'm going to say something that perhaps is a little unsettling for some people. I think we need to stop with the moral rhetoric. We need to stop moralizing people as in-groups or out-groups. We need to stop finding enemies within. We need to give up on arguments about liberals versus conservatives or big versus small government. These arguments have been going on now for about 30 years, maybe even longer. They're tedious, they're careworn, they're fruitless. Fundamentally, they're getting us nowhere. We need to move on from this way of doing business. The post-World War II order and the assumptions that underpin that, to my mind, are really starting to play out, and we need to adopt a new language and a new way of doing business. To use the language of information technology, our democracies need a new operating system. One that's capable of regularly updating itself so that it always remains appropriate to the challenges that we face. So, what I'm arguing is we need a radically new democratic philosophy, one that's appropriate to the complex and uncertain times we find ourselves in, and which, upfront, admits that many of the difficulties and problems we face do not admit of obvious, easy solutions, but solve them we must. I think there's a breakdown in the middle of many of our democracies. Feedback systems don't work, or they work over timescales that are inappropriate. They're either too long or they're too short. Giving a judgment on the performance of a government every 3 or 4 or 5 years and wondering why things haven't improved in the interim really is a problem. So what do? I think we self-consciously need to adopt a new language and a new way of doing business. And this isn't going to be easy, and I don't expect any early successes from it. But the key idea is straightforward, that we need to think of our democracies as learning systems, ones that are capable of testing, adapting, evolving, and delivering. And redesigning them in this way can renew the faith and trust of the public and will allow us to tackle and surmount the complex challenges we inevitably face. This approach does not build on conventional political philosophy. In fact, I've really disregarded it, which is maybe perhaps an arrogant thing to do, but again, perhaps that's okay. Instead, what I'm doing is building on findings from psychology, from neuroscience, and from evolutionary biology. To put it at its simplest, when our brains encounter surprising or unexpected inputs, they update their models of the world, they learn and they adapt. When societies face unexpected crises, they too must learn, unlearn and relearn. I call this approach the Cognitive Republic, where we all together build an experimenting, learning and evolving society. The Cognitive Republic offers a radical reframing of democracy for the 21st century as a thinking and learning system, an ecosystem of experiments, heuristics, and feedback loops, not just a system of checks and balances. This podcast is going to be outside the paywall. The subsequent ones will be mostly behind the paywall, although what I will do is put these up on YouTube where they can be watched, but you'll have advertisements, and I'll also put them up on a podcast platform where again you will have advertisements. Here on the Cognitive Republic itself, you'll be able to listen to these in an ad-free form if you become a member. Thank you, and I'll get on with the rest of my day. The weather is not expected to improve here for at least, it's 1:15 in the afternoon, or 1:15 p.m. and the rain is not expected to lift until something like 4 p.m. this evening. So trapped indoors I am, and I've decided to take the chance to get this moving. I look forward to talking to you more in the coming weeks and months.